We begin this morning by recognizing outstanding achievement in journalism that had a positive impact on a community. The American Legion Fourth State Award is difficult to earn. It is a testament to the demanding nature of the competition and the quality of entries. Not only do the reports have to be informative and entertaining, they also have to provide a tangible benefit to society. Our fourth state winner for broadcast is a previous winner who really wanted and planned to be here this morning. But like any good news reporter, he has to be where the news requires him to be. He is currently in his home city of Tampa covering the hurricane. First, a little bit about his award-winning work. Imagine it's early 2022 and you fly to Florida to take a cruise or enjoy a family vacation. You want the assurance of a COVID test so you don't expose others. You see a pop-up clinic promising instant results and pay a couple of $100s for that assurance. There were major problems with people who lived that scenario, as reported by ABC Action News I-Team in Tampa. Please turn your attention to the video monitors.
Greetings from Tampa, Florida. I'm so sorry I can't be with you there in Charlotte. It's only about 40 miles south of my hometown, but unfortunately Hurricane Idalia got in the way. Now we're here at American Legion Post 138 during the calm before the storm. This is one of the best posts you'll find as far as the view's concerned, and you'll have to check it out when you're here for your convention in just 2 years. Now we're honored this is the second time that the ABC Action News I-Team has won the coveted Fourth Estate Award from the American Legion. During a surge in new COVID cases in early 2022, we uncovered how poorly prepared the Florida Department of Health and the FDA were when it came to monitoring testing. We uncovered bogus COVID testing centers popping up throughout Florida, charging taxpayers millions of dollars, harvesting patients' personal information, and putting the public health at risk by providing inaccurate results. A national testing company we reported about is currently under federal investigation, and a local clinic shut down amid our findings that the owner never even had necessary approval to perform tests that she was offering. I'd like to thank photojournalist Matt McGlashan and executive producer Melanie Payne for their hard work on this series. I'd also like to thank our news director, Sarah Moore, our assistant news director, Mark Zonka, and our general manager, Nick Nicholson, as well as our parent company, Scripps, for their dedication to investigative journalism. At a time when local journalism is in crisis in many places, it's important to have the support of the American Legion and its members, because without watchdog journalism, we risk losing the many freedoms and way of life that your members have fought so hard for so many years. I'm Adam Walser, an investigative reporter for ABC Action News in Tampa, Florida. We're the proud home of MacDill Air Force Base, and the Sunshine State has the second highest American Legion membership, with nearly 100,000 Legionnaires. While the COVID pandemic may seem like old news now, in early 2022, we were seeing a huge spike in new cases, and with that came a high demand for PCR testing, considered the gold standard in identifying infections. People needed these tests to take trips or return to work. But the I-Team found some unscrupulous operators were charging big bucks for bogus tests, putting people's health at risk and even using their personal information to steal their identities.
We had to take a picture of our driver's license.
Soon after registering, she got an email with her test results.
We were still in line waiting to be tested. We hadn't been swabbed yet. We hadn't gotten up to the gentleman to be tested. And we had already received an email stating that we were negative for COVID.
Her husband, her 3 children, and 3 other people in line all received emails saying they tested negative. The sign out front advertised rapid PCR test, results in 15 minutes. Was there anything unusual about the clinic?
There was a dog there.
The dog belongs to licensed nurse practitioner Tracy Green, who owns the business.
He said, "Oh, we'll get you right in and out so you don't miss your flight."
Paul says Green swabbed his nose and took the sample to another room.
7 minutes later, she said, "Let me check it." So she went back there and she said, That's fine.
University of Tampa biochemistry professor Dr. Scott Witherow says PCR tests are too complicated to get results that quickly.
The genetic material in the virus is amplified in each cycle. That genetic material doubles. So you can start with one copy of that, and then through about 30 cycles, you have 1 billion copies of that.
The manual for the fastest PCR test on the market says samples are collected, labeled, and placed in a chemical agent. Then the solution is introduced onto a cassette, which is placed in a machine that performs dozens of uninterrupted cycles. I went to Remedies to check for myself how fast I could get results from a PCR test, paying $125. Green showed up without a mask or gloves, quickly swabbed my nostrils, and didn't ask for an ID. 27 minutes later, she called to say my COVID test was negative.
None of the devices or instruments or protocols or techniques that I've seen have been able to do that using PCR.
We're just curious about the PCR test. Everyone has told us that it's pretty hard to do one in less than a half hour.
Well, it's not, because I have a lab. I bought
Okay.
the equipment and I have a lab in there. I don't have to send it out.
Can we see the lab?
No, you can't.
It says 15-minute rapid PCR test. And
Well, there should
there's
be a
none.
comma.
When we returned the next day, the word "and" was written between rapid and PCR.
People who were positive could have gotten on a flight and flown and maybe infected other people.
Ladies and gentlemen, though they are not physically here, let's acknowledge the great work of our 2023 Fourth Estate Award for Broadcast, WFTS-TV, and Adam Walzer. We will send them their well-deserved award. One of the most significant victories for the American Legion and veterans everywhere was the passage and signing of the PACT Act last year. Leading the way in coverage about the harmful effects of burn pits and other toxic exposures impacting veterans was the Military Times. Deputy Editor Leo Shane authored much of the coverage about these exposures and the latest developments in Congress and the White House. Let's take a look at this award-winning work.
Last summer, landmark legislation passed ensuring care and compensation to generations of veterans who were exposed to toxic substances.
What this would do is it would make it easier for them to apply for both disability benefits, get money back for their wounds, and also get more care at VA hospitals.
The process to pass the PACT Act wasn't easy, with the bill being blocked in the Senate on the first try.
So veterans staged a weeks-long protest out here, 24 hours, standing out here and telling Republicans, telling lawmakers this was an urgent need to get passed. I hopped in my car, rushed out here to just get the story from them, to meet them. It was a nice light rain. It was a pretty miserable night for them, but it worked. It got their message out. We helped relay their message to the rest of the world. We've been covering this for 15 years. The issue of burn pits was one that the Military Times broke back in 2008, thanks to Kelly Kennedy's great work.
I was in Iraq covering health issues, and I'd seen the blood burn pit.
After Kelly returned from Iraq, veteran Dan Clare made her aware of a memo warning of the deadly dangers of burn pits.
And he'd hit a bunch of other reporters with it, and no one took it. I think they figured that the military wouldn't do something harmful. So we went ahead and ran with it after Dan sent us the memo.
Leo covered the issue in Washington, D.C., and pressed leaders for answers.
How do you move this along at an even faster pace so that they're not waiting 5 years, 6 years for the next big step forward?
I feel intense urgency to move on this.
People like Leo, the Military Times, have really seen to it that the coverage is there day in and day out, year in and year out, for many decades now.
You know, he writes a story, and then everybody else across the nation picks up on that story.
To have Leo on the beat means that readers are getting someone who's keeping everyone honest, that they're that he's watching VA, he's watching Congress, and making sure that veterans know, hey, this was promised in the bill, is it being delivered? Or, hey, they had talked about this much money over 10 years, is that still going to be the case? It's very easy, especially when we're talking about these big chunks of money, to kind of think of it as a very abstract idea, but I think Leo does a great job of showing exactly what it's going to mean for veterans across the country.
I hope that our coverage is helping improve lives. I hope more veterans are aware of the illnesses that they could face, the dangers that are out there from their time in the military, the exposures they might have suffered, and I hope they can go and use that to not only get the care they need, but pressure VA into providing even more care for them.
Please welcome our 2023 Fourth Estate Award winner for print journalism, Leo Shane.
Well, thank you all very much. I do have some bad news before I start off. I do not have any videos of me with Tom Cruise up in a fighter jet, so I don't want to disappoint everyone first thing in the morning. The good news is that I usually only write a few hundred words when I write stories, so I will keep this brief. I won't delay things too much. Thank you to the American Legion for this award. I'm flattered to be included among the exemplary journalists who've earned the Fourth Estate Award, including my colleague Adam, who unfortunately couldn't be here. And I'm just as flattered this week to be able to talk to the veterans here. I'm just flattered by the number of veterans who have come up to me and said that they're regular readers of my work and regular readers of Military Times. You know, it's not always easy to see the impact of your work when you're writing and you're not engaging with folks all over the country face to face. So it means a lot to be able to see that we are affecting and helping the individuals we serve. I'm not a veteran. I've always been struck by the generosity of the veterans community in patiently teaching me the issues that are closest to you and the stories that need to be out there. Sometimes very patiently, as your Washington, D.C. staff can tell you. They've got to really walk me through a couple of these things. So I hope I've lived up to their expectations in that work, and I hope I've been able to really share your stories. Covering the PACT Act and the issue of burn pit injuries has been a years-long process for Military Times, dating back to Kelly Kennedy's great work in 2008 and her really bringing this to light. Over the years, reporters like Patricia Keim have kept that work going, and I get to stand here today and accept this award for Military Times, thanks to those years of dedication and the years of exemplary work that they've done. I'd like to thank my editor-in-chief, Mike Roos, for having faith in me to write as much as I could on this topic last year, even before it became evident this was going to become what it became. I think early on, I just had a hunch that this time felt different, that finally we might see something with burn pits. We might actually see some real action on the larger issue of toxic exposure in the military, and not simply the half measures that we had seen. So. I've been fortunate to work at two great newspapers in my career in Washington, Military Times and Stars and Stripes. I've had the opportunity to serve troops in the military at both, and I've had the opportunity to work with reporters who are really dedicated to telling the stories of both of those communities, really getting into the story, really representing to the rest of the country what they're missing when they don't know what's going on with troops, with veterans, with military families. And I'm looking forward to next year when I'm sure you're going to hear from another one of my colleagues for their great work for this award. Thank you to my wife, who couldn't be here today, but has heard way too much about the PACT Act over the last 2 years or so, to the point where I think she thinks we might be getting some benefits. We are not. And thank you to my son and daughter, who've been exceedingly polite as I talk about this stuff over the dinner table and ask me why I only talk about boring stuff on TV and when I go places. I don't have a great answer for them, but I do love my work. I do love being able to tell veteran stories. I love being able to share the stories with the rest of the country. And I like being able to let you all know what is going on in Washington, what is going on, how you're being helped, and where the country's falling short. And I plan on doing this as long as I can, and as long as you all keep sharing your stories with me. So thank you very much.